My name is Nwokedi, and I'll be moderating today. We will be starting shortly, so please get comfortable and let us know in the chat where you're joining from, while we wait a few minutes for more people to join. Well, I think we have 75 people, so we can start. During the introduction section yesterday, I noticed we have people from all walks of life. Some are new from non-tech background. Some have a bit of tech experience, while others are tech gurus and cybersecurity experts. You are all welcome, and we try as much as possible to carry everyone along. If you're a beginner, please do not feel overwhelmed by all the tech jargons. Don't worry, it will definitely get better and easier with time. You are also very lucky to be learning in this age where you have access to recordings and AI tools. Please take advantage of them. Revisit the section as many times as you need. Use Microsoft Learn and leverage AI platform to deepen your understanding on any topic. I usually remind my mentees that every expert you see today was once a beginner. I don't think I know anyone that was born as an adult. They all started from somewhere. They mastered it over time. If you start today and master it, you'll be an expert too. I can see we have people from Abuja, India, Mauritius, Enugu, Nigeria, Ibadan, Oyo State, Ontario, interesting, Abuja, London, Ocean State, Port Harcourt, Delta. Wow, we have people almost all over the world. Uganda, very interesting. Ogun State, Nigeria, and London. Lisbon, wow. We have people all over the world. Thank you all for joining today. Thank you all. Okay, let's get started. Once again, welcome to day 2 of the Cloud Security Bootcamp section, brought to you by the Nigeria Microsoft Security User Group. My name once again is Nonso. In the previous section, our community lead, Emmanuel Itoje, did a wonderful introduction to the bootcamp and the security compliance and identity concepts. If you miss it, please check our YouTube page for the recording. I will also share the link in the chat shortly. Today's section will be covering Introduction to Microsoft Entra ID, which is part 2 of the Microsoft Security Compliance and Identity Fundamentals. It contributes to 25 to 30% of the SC 900 certification exam. Before I hand over to our speaker for today, we have a few housekeeping reminders. Remember, this section is being recorded, so do not share anything that you are not comfortable putting in the public domain. Please keep your mic mute as always, unless you are called on to speak. We want to hear the speaker clearly without any interruption. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat or wait for the Q&A section where you'll be allowed to speak, and we will be happy to answer them. All right, everyone, it's time to introduce our mentor of the day. Opeyemi is a cloud infrastructure engineer with deep expertise in Microsoft Entra ID solution across Azure, M365, and security operations. He's a Microsoft certified trainer, a professional member of the British Computer Society, and holds multiple certifications, including Microsoft Certified Security Compliance and Identity Fundamentals, Security Operations Analyst Associate, Teams Administrator Associate, and many others. With some clapping emoji, please join me in welcoming our mentor today, Opeyemi Stephen.
Hello? Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, Opeyemi, go ahead.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Nonso. Thank you very much for that introduction. So I'm just going to share my screen shortly. Just give me 1 second. Uh, okay. So if you're able to see my screen, can you just give me an emoji, thumbs up? All right. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. Good afternoon. I think this is evening here. Yeah. So good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are actually listening this today. So, as you all know, this boot camp started yesterday, and our wonderful leader Emmanuel did justice to the introduction to what we are going to be having, and we have a lot of people asking questions, and then I believe with those answers, you should by now know what you really want to do. If really this is the path you really want to go to, or you just want to have an idea of it. Okay, so no knowledge is actually lost. All right, so today I'll be taking you on the introduction to Microsoft Entra ID. So Microsoft Entra ID. So that ID which stands for identity. So Microsoft Entra ID. So all right, so Microsoft Entra ID, which is formerly known as the Azure Active Directory. So it's formerly known as the Azure Active Directory, and then before Microsoft did rebranding, and which they actually changed the name because there's an environment called the Active Directory environment, which that is the on-prem. So, and they come up with the Azure Active Directory. So I think maybe probably it was conceived, maybe confusion, or maybe just like just a branding. So they decided to brand it. So it's now known as the Microsoft Entra ID. So you need to take note of that because you might probably see that in an exam or maybe in an interview. So it's very, very important for you to know that. So there is a Microsoft cloud-based solution for identity and access management. You can see the word Microsoft Cloud based solution. If you look at most of Microsoft definition of their product, they will tell you it's Microsoft Cloud XYZ, Microsoft that XYZ. So the reason being is because of what they make you to understand that this is what their own product. Okay, so I say that there can be other ones. So the Microsoft Entra ID is what is the Microsoft cloud-based solution for identity and access management. The word identity, which I believe we should probably have an idea what the word identity means generally. The word what identity simply means generally is just like when you are going somewhere, it's okay, identify yourself. So you bring out your ID, okay, this is whom you are. So this Microsoft Entra ID is a cloud-based solution for identity and what and access management. So which means that for you to have access to something, your identity needs to be known. Okay, so your identity needs to be known. So for us to grant you what access. So to manage this this access management. So the Microsoft Entra ID is an environment that is used for that in the Microsoft cloud space. Don't so you need to take note of that in the Microsoft cloud space. So if you go to other cloud products, they might have a different definition, but it's still the same as like what an identity. Okay, So he said it's just like it's just for example now, if you want to travel out now, you go to the airport. Now the airport is a central place for you, for everybody to travel out to whatever destination they want to go to. But for you to access the flight, the plane, you need what? Your identity, which is your passport. So that passport is what gives you access to that plane. So now that access management are the people that are now checking you in. You know, the people you go to the counter, they check your passport. You go to the border guys, they check your papers. Are you sure you have? Are you sure you have access to this particular flight and all those things like that? So the same thing applies to what? Identity. So identity has to do with what? With you having access to what? To something. So this Microsoft Entra ID is an environment that allows us to do such kind of thing in the cloud. It's that it helps organization control who can access what and ensure that users, whether employee, guest, or partner, can securely sign in and use the resources they need there. So who are we managing? Users. Who are we giving access to? Users. You know, users, which is the other employee, and then the guest or the partner. For example, we have a company and we want an external entity to manage your resources, your cloud resources. Those are regarded as partner, which Microsoft, they call them the Microsoft partners. Okay, so they are the one that will now be in charge of what? Your cloud solution. They manage your identity, but you as the sole owner of that thing, you will give them access what? To make use to manage the identity, to manage the resources you want them to manage for you. So there must be what? An identity that signifies that these are what? Are Microsoft partners that are managing what? Our resources in our organization. Okay, so when you employ when you start a work, when you go to an interview, you pass the interview, and they send you that amazing email that you've passed the interview and all those things like that, and then you start your onboarding. What they do is that they are simply trying to identify you, because you are going to be carrying out some tasks in which you have been employed to do. So you need an identity. So once they open an account for you, they do the onboarding, you now become a user. Okay, you become a user. Why? Because they want you to securely sign in and use resources that you need for your work, to carry out your work. So this Microsoft Entra ID is an environment that allowed such things. So as a cloud security person, identity is what you are going to be mostly dealing with, because it is very, very important. The identity signifies telling you that who has access to what. So now they say Microsoft Entra is a suite of identity, just like what I said, is a suite of identity and network access tools that supports zero trust, zero trust by verifying users, validating access, enforcing permission, encrypting connection, and detecting threat. So when you talk about zero trust, we should all know that zero trust is that you don't, from the word zero trust, means that don't trust anybody. I cannot say because you are my colleague. I cannot say because, oh, we are friends and now I employ you in my organization. I say, oh, I trust you. I know zero trust policies. Zero trust model is something that you say you have to verify. You don't just trust somebody with something. Oh, no, you don't assume. So this Microsoft Entra ID allows all of that. Now, the next thing we have is the identity secure score. Identity secure score. Now, for every identity in the Microsoft Entra ID environment, it usually gives like how would I call it? Is like a help tools that helps you to understand how your environment works. So there is now something we call what? Identity or secure score. So it comes out with a score, it comes out with what? With a score telling you that, oh, this your environment, this is the particular percentage this your tenant has been access to. I mean, this is the particular environment, and this your tenant, is very what it means is secured. So it will now start giving you some, indicators how you can align. That is, start giving you some Microsoft best practice to set up your environment to make sure that it is well secure. Look at it, say identity secure score helps to objectively measure your identity, security posture, plan identity security improvement, and review the success of your improvement. Review the success of your improvement. It said provide customized recommendation based on the organization identity configuration for enhanced security. So what it just does is to enhance your security environment. So it helps monitor and track the effectiveness of your security changes for ongoing identity protection improvement. Okay. Next. Now, we want to look at the basic terminologies of this Microsoft Entra ID. The basic terminologies of this Microsoft Entra ID. One, we have what we call tenant. Tenant. When you hear the word tenant, what does this simply mean? Tenant, does it mean somebody like
so an X incest?
Sorry about that. Please keep on top of your mic, please. Thank you very much. Hello, Opeyemi, are you here?
Hello?
Hello, Opeyemi.
Hello, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Okay, I think I was muted.
Yeah,
all right.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, sorry, thank you. So I was talking about basic terminologies of the Microsoft Entra ID. Okay, so when we talk about the basic terminology, we have number one, we have what we call tenant. Now, from your own perspective, from your own understanding, what do you understand the word tenant? Let us describe it generally. When you say the word tenant, what does it mean to you? I mean, the word tenant. Can anybody just explain to us that word tenant? I know you have it on the screen, but just no wrong or right answer. Yes, you can just unmute yourself. If you can help us to unmute anybody. Yeah.
All right. A tenant. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Patrick. Yes.
All right.
A tenant can simply be described in a contemporary word. Somebody who occupies a building or maybe a place, an accommodation in which they pay, and which is not necessarily their own. By the way of ownership, they are not the owner of the property, but they occupy it for a given period of time. But they have to pay to the owner of that particular property.
All right. Thank you very well. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. So I think you've really said that some people are raising up their hand. Because of time, I won't be really asking. So I think that's what I just want to hear. Thank you for that. So just take note of any other questions you can raise up your hand. So now, just like what he said, now tenant is somebody who's just occupying a particular place, like he's renting. You understand? It means that you are just renting for what? For the temporary being. So the same way apply. You can see that this product we are using is the Microsoft product. So when you have a tenant, when your organization has their own tenant, so it means that what they are doing, they are renting every identity, every security you do on that tenant. You are simply renting the users you created there and everything. You are paying for something to make use of it. So you are even it still remains the Microsoft their product. So they are the owner of it. So you are just a tenant. Okay, just occupying that particular space for a time being. So you said a tenant is a dedicated Microsoft Entra ID service instance for a single organization containing users and datas. Such as we have users, we have groups, we have devices, and we have the application registration. So a tenant can also contain access and compliance policy for resources such as application register in the directory. So this tenant is known as as a dedicated Microsoft Entra ID service instance for a single organization containing users. So when you say, oh, what is your maybe like they ask you in an interview, oh, tenant, what do you understand by the word tenant? And you start wondering, what do you tenant? Oh, are they talking about landlord and you start thinking, what is tenant? So it means that when you have this Microsoft Entra ID, when you have it set up, what you are simply setting up is your tenant. So you are paying to make use of of the resources Microsoft is giving to you. Okay, so like what somebody said, is just for a time being. So you are paying subscriptions, just like you are renting a house. You are paying monthly. You are paying you are paying your monthly rent, or maybe you are paying yearly rent. So the same thing applies to this. Now each tenant now has its own unique ID, which is tenant ID, and a domain name. Look at it. I said each tenant has a unique ID and was serving as a security and administrative boundaries. Now you can see from there, I put an example of a tenant. This is an example of a tenant ID. You said a tenant ID are global unique identifiers used to uniquely identify your organization directory in Microsoft Entra. So which means that what Microsoft used to identify you in their own environment is this your tenant ID. If I raise a complaint, if I raise an issue, maybe a support ticket with Microsoft today, you understand? When you raise that now, what they will do for me, for them to resolve my issue for me, they need your required for your tenant ID. It depends on what support you are raising with Microsoft. So that tenant ID is what now say that, oh, okay, this person is a tenant in our organization. Is a tenant. Okay, so this tenant ID is now a uniquely is a global unique identifier, which means that when you have this particular tenant ID, nobody else can have it. You cannot have the same tenant ID. It's just like we'll be living on the same street. Microsoft is like we are living on the same street, but we can't live in the same house. We can't have the same flat number. I can't say, oh, Opeyemi Stephen is living in flat 106, so street number 1, and Nonso is also living in flat 106, the same number 1 with me. There's going to be conflict. So this tenant is is a unique identifier used to identify organization directory in Microsoft Entra ID. He said they typically follow this structure, which is a 32 hexadecimal character, and is splitted into 5 groups. Look at it. If you look at it very well, this is a tenant example. You can look at, if you look at this first one, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. Can you see that? So it is splitted what into 5 what groups, and it's a 32 hexadecimal word characters. So this tenant will also what have its name. Okay, so for example, like maybe for example, you have nonso.com, you have yemtech.com, or you have Emmanuel.com, depending on the name of that particular organization. So that will not be the name of what of that tenant with what with the tenant ID. Okay, and whenever you are doing anything, make sure this tenant ID is something you have to keep it secure. You don't just expose you have to expose your tenant ID anyhow like that. Now it said directory. It said in Microsoft Entra, directory and tenant are often used interchangeably. The directory is a single logical container that stores and organizes identity related resources such as what users, groups, apps, and devices within what an organization tenant. So all these things are managed what in a directory. The groups, the apps, the devices you enroll, and what and any other app. So in that particular organization tenant, it said think of it as a centralized catalog for managing access and identity. So it's a centralized what catalog that is used for to manage what your access and what an identity. So move on to the next. Now the next one we have is multi-tenant. Multi-what tenants. We've talked about what tenant. Now is what is the what multi-what tenant. Is that a multi-tenant organization uses more than one Microsoft Entra ID instance. This setup is common for companies with independent subsidiaries, mergers, or acquire entity or operation across region with defined data residency requirement. Now, these are tenant organization. It's like I think it's mostly common in the Europes, and then I think America and thereabouts. I think some few in Nigeria. So like the company I work for, the company I work with, what we have is a multi-tenant environment because there is a company that guide that oversee the whole company. So this company, they are into advertising. They are an advertising what agency. So what they do, that they do all this PR, all this advertising, maybe all this anything that has to do with advertising, that has to do with anything that has to do with advertising. So there is a company under them. We have about like 7 or thereabout company under them. So each of this company, so this one company that now control them. So we now have access to each of these companies, their tenants, but we can't go into that tenant. There's way they set up that particular tenant. So if I need to solve, because all of them have, they do similar things. We have like company 1, company 2, they do what? They do the same similar thing, but there is one company that is controlling them. So in such a case like that, what they will have is known as what we call the multi-tenant. And the purpose for this is for collaboration. It's a multi-tenancy enable collaboration and sharing resources while keeping identity, infrastructure distinct and secure. Next. Okay, types of identity. We want to look at types of identity. Types of identity. Now, in Microsoft Entra ID, there are different types of identity that are supported. Okay, there are different types of what identity that are actually what are supported. Now, it said Microsoft Entra ID supports multiple identity types. Say each designed to manage access for different kind of users and resources. Then we have the user identity. We have the user identities. It said this represents individuals such as employee, customers, consultants, vendors, or partners who need access to organizational resources. So, like I said earlier on, when they are doing onboarding for you, they create an account for you. That is called a user. You understand? So you now become an employee. So, but if you are still undergoing interview with the company, that does not mean that you are now part of that company. That does not mean you are not yet a user. So when they create an account for you, what you have is known as what we call the user identity. And then this user identity are now in two types. And we have the external users and we have the internal users. Hello? Is anyone asking a question? All right.
No, please go on, sir.
So we have the internal user. It says internal user sign in using an account created within the host organization Entra ID. So if you are working for an organization, you are known as as the internal user. Now, if Emmanuel now wants to come and collaborate with your company, maybe they want to do one or two things for your company. Now, if they open an account for Emmanuel or they use his own credentials to invite him into your organization tenant, then Emmanuel is now known as as an external user. Okay, it's known as so external user authenticate via account from other Entra tenants, which can be social identity or third-party identity provider. Okay, and this particular user identity most at times in companies. So this actually depends on what the company has set already. If the company say that okay, hello, I think someone is talking. Okay, so if the company, if the policy of the company is that we don't allow external users, so it means that in that tenant there will not be an external user. But most companies have external users because you have the vendors, you have other partners that will definitely, maybe you want them to have access to one or two of your resources in your organization to do one or two things. Maybe like let's say like for some users some users we say, okay, we have our clients that they need to access our SharePoint. I need to give them access to my SharePoint. So I cannot just click on that link and then send it to them, because the link of that particular SharePoint is not set on that anyone with the link can view it. It's just like now you joining this meeting today. Most of you joined this meeting today with your emails, with your personal emails. You joined this meeting with your personal email. Account wasn't set up for you to get to join this meeting. You registered and then you now have access to that particular link to join this particular meeting. So if in an organization and I want somebody that is working in Mobile, or I want somebody that is working in Salisbury to now have access to my resources, me that I'm now working in Lido. So what we need to do is to either create an account for them to become an external user, or we definitely now send them an invitation to that tenant. So once they accept that invitation, they now become part of that particular tenant as an external user. Now, when you now go and check the property of that users, then you will now see they are in two types. We now have the users and we have the guests. So the external user is known as this guest. While you working in that Salisbury is known as what? As a member. So you will be seen as which I'm going to show you that. I'm going to open your tenant and then I will show you that maybe at the cost. I mean, after this particular slide. Okay, so you can see, so members are part of the organization tenants and typically have full access. So they have full access to what they need to have access to. But whereas guests are external collaborators with limited permission by default. So when you are setting up, because when an organization is set up, the first thing you need to do is to provision your tenant. You subscribe, you pay, you have the tenant. When you now have the tenant, before you now start provisioning the users, what you need to do is to set up some one or two things in that particular tenant environment. If maybe like I said, if I don't want external body to have access to any link in my tenant organization, then I need to go and set it to make sure that nobody with that link can join anything or can access anything in my tenant. Why? Because they are not part of what the members. So those are things the organization they say. So depending on policy of that particular organization. So these are things that needs to be set up. Okay. Now, I said together, this attribute helps organization manage access securely while supporting both internal teams and external partnership. Okay, just like what I said. So if you look at from this image here, you can see we have the human identity, we have the employee, partner, customer, vendor, consultant. So those are the human identity, and we have the machine word identity, which we're going to talk about that. Okay, we have the workload, the container, which is we have the virtual machine, the application services, and we have the devices, which is your mobile IoT devices, and then we have the desktop computers. So let's move next. Now we now have what we call the workload and device identity. The workload and device what identity. Now we say workload identity are assigned to application or services to enable secure access and authentication. To enable. Sorry, is someone talking? Sorry, can you mute your mic, please? There is you. Thank you. All right, are we good to go? All right, so thank you. So please, can we mute our mic? If you are watching, maybe probably your phone is in your pocket, just make sure you check before you join the meeting so you don't obstruct the class. Thank you very much. So it said a work identity, a workload identity is an identity you assign to like a software workload. It said this enables software workload to authenticate and to access other services and resources. This helps secure your workload. So all these things are just what is known for what? Just to secure. You have a user organization. You have access to what? You need to secure those users. You have machines on your tenant. You need to secure those machines, those workloads. Now I said and that's what we call service principal. It said this identity uses what? Microsoft Entra ID for access control. The service principal said developers are responsible for managing their credentials. And then we have the manage identities. manage identity. It said these are service principals automatically managed by Entra ID, removing the need for developer to handle credentials manually. Okay, to handle your credential was manually. It said now once an application is registered, a service principal is created in each Microsoft Entra tenant where application word is being used. Okay, so except for service principal to be able to access resources secured by the by the Microsoft Entra tenant, application developer must manage and protect what the credential. If not done correctly, this can introduce security vulnerabilities. Okay, so the managed identities is a type of service principal that are automatically managed in Microsoft Entra ID, and this eliminates the need for developer to manage what credentials. So the managed identity provide an identity word for application to use. And this is mostly like when you are working with maybe like your Microsoft Azure resources. Okay, and that support was the Microsoft Entra authentication. Now, then the next thing we have the device identities. Device identities. Device what identity? It said device identity represent hardware like phones and laptop supporting BYOD, which is bring your own device and organizational ownership. Now, this device identity. This device identity is known as a piece of what? Of hardware, which is such as what? Like your mobile devices, your laptops, the server, or the principal. Or the printer. Sorry, the printer. It said a device identity gives administration information they can use when making access or configuration decision. It's just like, for example, now you bring your own device. There's some company that do BYOD, bring your own device. Now, for you to be able to access some of our resources in our organization, there's something we need to do, which is known as the Microsoft Register Word device. Now, then we now have the device enrollment mode. Device enrollment mode. It said devices can be registered, can be joined, or hybrid join, enabling secure access across platform. Now, these device are enrollment in an organization. They are in three phases, which we have the Microsoft Entra registered devices. And now the goal of that one, like I said earlier on, is what is bring your own device or mobile scenario. Okay, let's say for example now, like for your mobile phone. Some organization can even configure in such a way that if your device is not compliant, you cannot even use your own mobile phone to log into your emails. Why? Because of what? That device is not compliant. But if it's a bring your own device, so it means that you can use your own phone to log into your work emails, to check your emails. But if not that, companies will definitely make provision for phones, especially maybe like, let's say for example, your authenticator. Most users use their phone. They download the app, they download the Microsoft Authenticator app, and when they need to log into anything on their system, and they need to use any resources in the organization, they prompt them for the Microsoft Authenticator. This is done with their own device. But if organization decides to say no, you have to use your own particular, you have to use the company device. So they will definitely provide that for you. So when you bring your own, this is known as as a Microsoft Entra register device. And then we have the join. We have the Microsoft, sorry, excuse me. So we have the Microsoft Entra join device. The Microsoft Entra join device. Now, this Microsoft Entra join device are devices that are joined to your company's tenants. It's just like when you try to log in, when company gives you when they give you your laptop, when they give you the laptop, when you on it, it will ask you to log in, put in your email address and put in the password. The email address you are putting in is not your personal email address. It is the email address that has been created for you. So such device is known as the Microsoft Entra join device. But if the company is just now maybe let's say they employ you and now you are not using your own laptop to work for the company. Normally it's your laptop, you have set it up. All you just need to do is to go to your browser and maybe if there's an application or maybe you have a VPN, you connect it, you use that. That is the bring your own device. But the Microsoft Entra join device is known as the one that allows you to sign in into that device using your Microsoft Entra, so using your identity, which is your email address and your password. Once you do that, at the back end, which is the Microsoft Intune, it will be shown that this device that this particular user is using is a Microsoft Entra join device. Okay, and then the last one we have the Microsoft Entra hybrid join device. Microsoft Entra hybrid join device. Say organization with an existing on-prem, which is the Active Directory, can benefit from functionality provided by the Microsoft Entra ID by implementing Microsoft Entra ID hybrid join device. That hybrid simply means that devices that are on-prem, okay, are joined with with your Active Directory. So now, registering and joining devices to Microsoft Entra ID gives user the single sign-on to cloud-based resources. Okay. Next. Now, the next one we have is the hybrid identity. We have the hybrid identity. Hybrid identity. Now, what is a hybrid identity? Hybrid identity combines on-prem and cloud identity system for authentication and authorization. This uses two key processes. The word hybrid identity means that a user can access resources that is on-prem, which is the Active Directory, and also can use resources which is the cloud. So for user to be able to do that, or maybe we have user in the on-prem environment and we want them to access resources that we have in the cloud environment. So that is known as as the hybrid identity. That does not mean that we will create identity for the user on the Active Directory and also come and create another one again in the in the cloud environment. No. So if user are now having access to user on-prem and now having access to cloud resources, that is known as as the hybrid identity. And now this hybrid identity are now in two phases. We have the inter-directory provisioning. We have the word inter-directory provisioning. It said this involves creating identities across different directory services. A common example is provisioning users from on-prem, Active Directory, into what? Microsoft Entra ID, just like what I said. So which means that when you provision your user, when you provision a user, you have users in the on the on-prem environment, and you also have the user you also have another user in the cloud environment. That is known as the inter-directory word provisioning. Now, then we now have what? The synchronization. It said this ensures that identity data such as users and group stay consistently between your on-prem directory and the cloud. So which means that, just like what I said, so which means that if I want this user that is in my on-prem environment to access resources in the cloud environment, then there must be something called what? Synchronization. So synchronization has to take place between the on-prem and what? And the cloud, so that that user can what? Access what? My cloud resources. So if you have a user in the cloud and you have a user in your in your on-prem environment, that is inter-directory provisioning. But when you want them to now communicate, then synchronization has to take place. Okay, so is that synchronization that now allow the user, which is the on-prem, to now be able to talk to your resources, that is what? In the cloud environment. So if you don't sync them, there's no way they can communicate, there's no way they can talk. So that has to be sync. Okay, now I said Microsoft Entra ID Cloud Sync. He said this is a cloud-based solution used to provision and synchronize identities between on-prem directory and the Microsoft Entra ID. So like I said, the synchronization, there is a tools that allows that to take place. So your hybrid user, your hybrid identity, or it can be group, or it can be device, for them to not be able to talk to the cloud. So there is a tool that is responsible for that, which is known as the Microsoft Entra ID Connect Cloud Sync. So it said is a cloud-based solution used to provision and synchronize identities between on-prem directory and the Microsoft Entra ID. Okay, so next one is the authentication capability of Microsoft Entra. Authentication capability of the Microsoft Entra. From the word authentication, and I believe Emmanuel touched on that yesterday. So I believe by now we already know what this word that word authentication simply means. You cannot be a cloud person and you don't know what this authentication, what it does. Now I said a core function of any identity platform is to authenticate. Is to what? Is to authenticate users' credentials during sign into what? To devices, apps, or what? Or services. Okay. Now, I said Microsoft Entra ID supports multiple authentication methods to access, to ensure secure and flexible access. To ensure secure and what? And flexible what? Access. One, we have the authentication method. Now let's look at the authentication method in the Microsoft Entra ID. The authentication method in the Microsoft Entra ID. Now, number one we have is what? Password. And this is what we all know. We all understand that if you want to log in to your email, or when you are signing up your emails, when you are signing up for an email account, there's also what? A password that you need. So that password is what now give you what? The authentication. So if for the fact that you are working for Mobile, for the fact that you are working for Sainsbury, or for the fact that you are working for PwC, now for you to have access to their resources, you need what? An authentication. So which means that you have your identity, which is your user ID, and then you now have what? The password. Now, when you have those two things, you now have access to what you are meant to have access to. So for the fact that you have an email with PwC does not mean that you automatically have access to everything. You only have access to what you need to have access to. So this password is now known as what? As the primary authentication method of the Microsoft Entra ID. It's a password are the most widely used form of authentication, but they come with significant drawback, especially when used alone. Easy to remember password are vulnerable to attack, while strong complex ones are hard to recall and can disrupt productivity when forgotten. Now, this is where an attacker now comes in. And that is where you and I, who wants to become cloud security personnel, you also need to make sure that authentication method of users are being secured. Look at it now. It said password are the most widely used form of authentication. That is why it's known as the primary form of authentication. Like now, you open a LinkedIn account. Now, when you sign into that LinkedIn account, when you want to, for the first time, you want to sign into that LinkedIn account, you use what? Your password to sign in. And now, because you now want to now increase the security of your LinkedIn account, then you now go to the settings and you now enable multi-factor authentication. You turn that on. Now, what does that mean? That means that you have added what? An extra layer of what? Of security. So when next you want to log into your LinkedIn, you put in your email, you still need to put in your password, but before you can now get in, the multi-factor authentication will be needed. Then you now get a notification, maybe on your phone, telling you that XYZ wants to log in. So you can approve and or reject it. So now, because this password is because the truth is that users don't like password, to be honest. If you tell users that, oh, today we have taken password away from your emails, all you just need to do, just go to outlook.com, put your email, you are in, boom, they are happy. But it's a risk. That is going to be a lot of trouble for you and I as the cloud security personnel. So therefore, there is always a measure to protect this user's password against any attack. And that's why we said we have strong password, we have complex password. Now, when you now tell users that, okay, combination of your password has to be characters, number, wide characters, they will just say, oh, that's too much. Oh, this, that. And they say, okay, no problem. So we just will go, we just type, blah, 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 and they just put it. And it's not rejecting it. He said, well, I'm trying to set my password. Why is he rejecting it? The reason being is because they are not simply following that password word requirement. There's something called password word requirement. So it has already been said that if this user that is trying to set a password or trying to reset a password does not meet that password requirement, this will not go. So that is where the trouble comes in. So, oh, this password is too difficult. How do I have to remember password? I've seen a user before. They are using the company name as a password. Where I work before, I've seen a user. And immediately I just okay, type in your password, and she typed the password. I just saw it. I said, what's your password? I said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. And the reason being is because because that particular organization, maybe people that are behind that did not set password requirement, which we are going to be talking about password protection. Okay, so that's for that. Now, where am I? Okay, so now we are here. Now we have the phone-based authentication, which is this SMS primary. So this is known as the primary and secondary authentication method. Now, if you need to sign in to an application and they tell you that, okay, we are going to receive a code, an SMS, because that has been set up already on your phone. For the fact that you put your password, which is the primary one, does not mean that it will get you in. You have to now go to your phone and check the SMS, check the code, and then you now put in that code, then before you cannot enter. So that is now known as the primary and secondary authentication, which means that we can decide to do without it. Okay? Because it's just a primary and secondary but this password is the primary method of authentication. You can't do without it. Then we now have the voice. Voice is known as the secondary authentication. It's just like we all know that when you are resetting password, at times you get some you will get some option. Either do you want a voice call or do you want an SMS? So any option you choose, if it's a voice, somebody will call you, which is normally is a machine, it's automated. So it will call you and then maybe give you a code, and then you have to listen to it very well and then put in there. If you put in the wrong thing, it will not allow you to get in. So if you look at from this diagram here, we have bad password, we have good password, we have better password, and we have best password. Can you see that? It is not a new thing. We've seen that people use their girlfriend name as password. So everyone say, I love you. So using this kind of thing is regarded as a bad password. Then if you now use any of this one, either an SMS or a voice, is known as as a good password. Now, a better password when authentication push is needed, or a token, or a hardware, either a software token or a hardware token is needed, is now known as as a better password. And then now Microsoft now come out with another one known as as the passwordless, which is known as the best means of password. But I don't think most companies are not really, just few companies now are going to passwordless stuff, but most people just use the authentication to sign in, or the Windows hello. Okay, so next. So next we have what we call the open authentication, which is known as the OAuth. Open authentication. Open authentication. Now, it said this is known as the secondary authentication method. It said it's a standard for generating time-based one-time password used to verify user identity. And now we have it in the soft token, which I've said earlier on. We have the soft token. This is app that generates our OTP using a secret key, which is known as seed, provided by Entra, by Microsoft Entra ID. And then we now have the hardware token. Hardware token. Now, the hardware token is just like I think most like in the I think in Nigeria there, I think this bank is not GT. Yeah, GT, you have a token, hardware token, which maybe you want to carry out any transaction on your bank account. You need to generate that password. You need to generate the OTP from that particular token to make use of. So everything has already been configured. Okay, so that is known as the hardware token. Okay, now then, Key fiber-like devices that display a code every 30 or 60 seconds with pre-programmed seed manually registered in Microsoft Entra ID. It said both token types are used as secondary authentication method in Microsoft Entra ID, typically during multi-factor authentication (MFA) or self-service password are reset. Then let's move on. Now, the next one we have the passwordless authentication method. The passwordless authentication method. And the end goal for this is to remove the use of password as the part of signing events. That is the end goal of this passwordless authentication method. It's a Microsoft Entra ID supports several passwordless options that enhance security and user experience. Okay, I don't think I've never configured this passwordless authentication method before, but I think, like I said, some companies are actually making use of it, which is working. Yeah. So, and then the next one we have the biometric, which is known as the Windows Hello for Business. So Windows Hello for Business, it says uses facial recognition, your fingerprints, or pin tied to a device. It said this acts as a primary method and can also support multi-factor authentication. Okay, so when you use your facial recognition to sign into your machine, to your laptop. So, but the thing with this with all this one is that at times, like in my company, I know that when users reset their password and they have access to a map drive. Now, that map drive they have access to, but because they've reset their password, whenever they want to now access that map drive, they will not have access. And some will forget that they need to now go and re-authenticate it again by entering their password, by entering their username and their password. So they just want to use the facial recognition and it doesn't work. And next you say, oh, I don't have access to the server. I was having access to it yesterday, but this time, then you now start asking them, did you change your password? He said, yes, I reset my password yesterday. And so that is the reason why. So what we need to do is to go back there and make sure that they log in using their email and their password. Then going forward, they can now use the facial recognition to now access their map drive. Okay, and then we have the Microsoft Authenticator. Microsoft Authenticator is which you all know. We all know. I believe everybody will all know the Microsoft Authenticator. Even somebody who's not an IT knows the Microsoft Authenticator. Now, is that a mobile app that enable passwordless signing and serve as a secondary verification method during MFA or during MFA or self-service password reset. Then we now have the FIDO key, which is known as the fast identity online, the FIDO key, the version 2. So now it said this is known as the physical key that provides strong phishing resistant authentication used as both primary and secondary method. And then we now have the certificate base. We have the certificate based authentication. Okay. So we have the certificate. So I said this uses the X509 certificate for secure sign in to apps and browsers, supported only as a primary authentication method, okay, which is mostly common in the server environment. Okay, so this method reduces resistance on password while strengthening identity and protection. While strengthening identity and protection. So next. So next we now have this is a diagram. We just simply like give us a brief explanation of what we just spoken about. So which is the Microsoft Entra authentication method, showing you which is primary, which is secondary. Okay, so if you look at this, we have the method, we have the primary authentication, we have the secondary authentication. So if you look at the Windows Hello for Business, it can be signified as what? As the primary form of what? Of authentication, especially when you are making use, like I said, when you are when your device are enrolled into Intune. So when you are setting up that process, you will definitely set up this your Windows Hello for Business. Okay, so the secondary one is the MFA. User must be enabled for the FIDO 2, and then we have the Microsoft Authenticator. The Microsoft Authenticator is also known as a primary word authentication. It's just like when you want to log into an environment, users, because definitely users are enrolled for MFA. You have to enroll your user for MFA. So when they enter their email, they put in their password, the next thing they get notification on their Microsoft Authenticator app, because without they cannot definitely log in. So you can't say because I have password, my password. So even when you put your password and you don't have your authenticator, if the admin check the log, it will see that your signing was successful. You put in the correct password, you put in the correct email, but it fails. Signing is successful, but the only thing, you are not authenticated. Authentication did not take place because your multi-factor because the authenticator is not being approved. So when you get that push notification and you don't accept it, it will definitely time out or it will expire. So it means that you will not be able to log in. Why? Because of what? That account has been enrolled for MFA. Okay, so and the secondary part of that is the MFA and what? And SSPR. Then we have the FIDO key, security key, also can be used as the primary authentication method with MFA. And then we have the certificate-based authentication. Yes, that can be used as the primary key. And then we have the oath, we have the hardware, and we have the software. These are known as also this is not like the primary authentication method. And we have the SMS. Yes, SMS too can also be known as the primary authentication. Like I said, when you sign in, you need a code. They say, okay, a code has been sent to your, to your number, to that number provided there. So you have to go there and then make use of it to get it enter. And then we also have the voice, and we have the password. So these are known as the summary when an authentication method can be used during a sign-in event. Next, so we have what we call multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication. Now, multi-factor authentication is the process in which users are prompted during what? The signing process for any additional form of identification, like I said earlier on, such as a code that will be sent to your phone, or using what? The fingerprint. Okay, so it said this add what? An extra layer of security by requiring user to verify the identity with a second factor like a mobile phone, code, or fingerprint during what? Signing. Okay, so this MFA say multi-factor authentication dramatically improve the security of an identity. It improve what? The security of an identity. Like I said, is known as what? As an extra layer of security. It said, but why still being simple for user? The extra authentication factor must be difficult for an attacker to what? To obtain or what? Or duplicate. That is why you see that most of all we have to verify. Some people want anything they see on their phone, they just open it, man, they press. You see this one, you see a link, man, you are pressing it. You are not verifying. So as a cloud security person, if you are doing that, so you need to stop that. So you need to make sure you really know who is betting, who wants to log in. Okay, let's say for example now, somebody needs to log in. Let's say you have like a shared identity. Maybe you just need one person. I mean, let's say like you have a team and people need to log into that particular thing, but you have just one person that approved the MFA. So you that are approving that MFA, if somebody wants to log in, as long as nobody contacts you, even if somebody contacts you, maybe your colleague somebody sent you a message, oh, I need to log in now, can you please approve MFA? You don't just approve like that. You need to call. You need to hear the voice. If it's possible, sir, do video call to make sure that, okay, this is the person that wants to log in. So when the person is logging in, because you are the one to approve the authenticator, so you know what you are approving. Also, the same thing applies to what if it's your own personal identity. So when you are logging in, you know that you have logged in already. You've logged into your email, and next thing you just saw notification. And because you are in a meeting, you just open your phone, and the next thing you just check. Because of some people are very good. Their hand are very good in pressing things, and the next thing you just say, what did I do? Who is logging? Before you know, you just before you say Jesus is Lord, somebody has logged in. Why? Because of what you did not verify. You have logged in already, but now you are seeing you are seeing a push notification, and you are not accepting it. And you are saying, oh, hackers, they've hacked me. You see, I said it. I said this micro authentication is not secured, but people will not believe. Whereas you are the one that click on it, brother. So, as a security person, you need to you need to verify something before you accept. Okay, so this multi-factor authentication is known as an extra layer of security. Okay, so even if an attacker has your password, they have your password, definitely, because MFA has been enrolled. So when they click on login, when they try to log in, your MFA will pop out. So you know that you're not logging, so you don't accept. Or the next thing you now need to do you don't just relax and say, oh, thank God, thank God I have this thing. They will try tire, and you didn't contact your administrator to change your password immediately, and you now feel that, oh, it's okay. No, maybe one day you will just see it, you will just mistakenly, maybe you just go and tell, you just accept, approve. So what you need to do at that moment, you need to contact your admin to change your password, or you can change your password if the SSPR is what is being configured for the users in that organization. Okay, so that is why security is everyone's business. I used to tell people security is everyone's business. For the fact that you are a security person does not mean that it is only your business. And that's why you see most organizations, there's always a security course for every user in that organization, and they take it very, very serious. Like my company, we do it every year, and that every year they take it serious. If you don't pass it, you have to go back, you have to rewrite that particular thing. And then what they usually do again is that they can send some phishing email to now test you to see whether you clear. You don't know who sent it, to see whether this person, when you click on it, and they now go and trace log, and they now saw the person that clicked on this and that caused this problem, because they are the one that sent it. So they will now contact your manager and say, so XY person, we did XYZ to test it, all the team, and this was the person that clicked on the link. Are you sure this person went through that particular security course? And that from there, they will take it off from there with the person. Some company, if you're not careful, you can be sacked for that. So we need to be very careful for that. Now, Microsoft Entra multi-factor authentication strengthen security by requiring two or more of the following. Something you know. Something what you know, like what? A password or PIN. Is something you know. You have the password or you have the PIN, and then we now have something you have, such as what? A trusted device, phone, or hardware key, which is the hardware token key. Okay, so that means something that that you have it. Like I said, a GTV bank, if you want to do transfer, you want to do any transaction on your bank, there is a token, it's a hardware token. So you need to generate a PIN for the transaction to be successful. And then we now have something you are, which is known as the biometric, which is our data like fingerprint or facial recognition. So next, now we now have the self-service password reset. Self-service password reset. Self-service was password reset. From that word, self-service password reset. Now, can someone briefly tell me what he or she understand? Don't look at the screen. This, like I said, there is no wrong or right answer. We are all here to learn. Okay, you don't need to go and Google it on time, sharp. So just tell us what you understand by the word self-service. Let's look at it. The word self-service. What do you understand by the word self-service? Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, I think Patrick is the first person. So Patrick, can you please unmute Patrick for me?
My understanding of yes. All right.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Okay. Yes. Self-service. From this context, simply means self-service password reset. It simply means a feature in the authentication process where the users, common users, have the enabling or they are enabled to reset their own passwords, whenever they feel like doing that, without necessarily consulting the admin of the tenant.
Okay, thank you for that. So I want to ask you one question. What is the word just self-service? Don't give me self-service password reset. The word, when you say something self-service, what does it mean? Self-service.
Self-service simply means, in simple terms, do it yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's what I want to hear. Now, self-service is known as what, just like what he said, do it what yourself. So, like now, in most organizations, like even in my company, there's something that's a self-service for users, which may be like some basic application users need to use for their daily work. So that particular application has been enrolled. We have it in the, in the company portal. So all they just need to do is to go there, click on it, and then install it. They don't need the administrator. They don't need somebody to enter password for them to be able to install that application. But the only time they need an administrator password is when they are downloading an application that is not within that company portal. And the same thing applies to on the Mac, because we deal with users. In fact, my company we do 95%. In fact, not even 95%, almost 96% of users are Mac. So for that Mac, there's something we call Kenji or Kenji. So that Kenji, there's something called Kenji self-service. So in that particular environment, there are apps that have been deployed there. All the users need to do is to go there, search for that app. As long as it is the app they need to work, the app will be there. They are there already. So they just need to go there, search for it, and then install it by themselves. That is known as what we call self-service, which is what do it yourself. So the same thing, we have the self-service password reset. So a self-service password reset in Microsoft Entra ID lets users securely, you can look at the one, securely, for the fact that it's a self-service, it has been securely. So if you look at those apps they put in the company portal that users just go there and install it, they are apps that has been checked, not just anyhow apps. You cannot go there and say you are looking for your personal apps you want to install. It will not be there, because it's part of what the company policy. So even if you raise a ticket and say, oh, I want to install so app, blah blah, the help desk person will get back to you and say, oh, we are sorry, is it an approved app? Then you need to go and get what? An approval from your manager. Now, when you get an approval from the manager, then that ticket will now go to what? Is either to the head of IT or will go to the team lead, then look at it. They will now look at it, okay, is it okay? If that one now approve it, then it will now go to the security team. Because the security teams are the ones securing the organization. They now have an environment to now test that particular app to see how this app is working. If this app is good, if it's safe to use, then they can now send that ticket back to whom will now deploy it to that company portal, or somebody will remote into your machine and then install that software for you with the admin password. Okay, so you can see there are chains of what of this. So that's why you see that's why we have the word one securely was said. Self-service password in Microsoft Entra ID let user was securely will change. That word securely is what you should put, is what you should, underline. That word will securely change or reset their password on their own. No admin or help desk needed. They don't need an admin. So this one will be configured, which I'm going to show you how it's being done. So it's going to be configured, and all they just need to do is to just go there and click on forget password. Or maybe if the user wants to change their password, they feel it's not maybe they forgot their password. They feel that their password is not safe. Maybe somebody has seen their password and they are not. That is the benefit of the security training they do. Because all those things, they will put it there, they will explain. If you feel that somebody has seen your password, and they will tell you that don't write down your password, don't save your password. But we all know that, you know ourselves. We know that we used to save our password in Notepad or one place. But they will tell us, don't do that. But the reason being is because of what is to secure that password. But if you now feel that that password has been compromised, then you can now decide to go and change that password yourself. You don't need to contact the admin. You don't need to contact the help desk. You can reset the password. You can change that password yourself. So you just go there and say, well, change password. You change the password. And when you are changing the password, you know that they will ask you for your current password, and then you put your new password. But if you are resetting the password, all it just asks you is for the new password, and you will confirm the password, and then you follow the authentication method they put there for you, and then bam, you reset your password yourself without any administrator, without any word help desk needed. Okay, so this is known as the self-service password word reset. So that's a self-service password. These are the benefit. Like I said, I've said earlier on. It said it cuts help desk cost by reducing support requests. That's why you see now. You see that even help desk is only, it's just if you are into help desk, if you are doing help desk now, you need to upgrade your, your game, because now most companies now, I know, some companies still have help desks, but now help desks are now, their workload is now being reduced. So you have to really prove to them that you know this thing that they want to employ you for. So that's why it's very important we upscale ourselves. Even in the security space, you need to upscale yourself. When new things come out, always be that person that wants to read. Like usually, I have a friend that usually says he is a very busy person, but he said he spent at least nothing less than 1 hour in a day to read. You spend 1 hour in a day. So look at it. You have 365 days in a year. Now, if you spend 1 hour every day, let's say plus or minus, let's say in a week, you do it maybe like 4 times, 3 times, definitely you will improve in yourself. You understand? So when new thing comes out, be that person that research, be that person that is in a community. You can't call yourself a cloud security person and you just relax. I've passed my SC200. I'm not the boss. I've passed my SC300. I'm not the boss. You are not in a community. You don't research. You don't collaborate with people. No. So you need to do all those things. This will help you, so that if people are saying, AI is coming to take our job, you sit down there and say, I'm the AI. I will do that AI together. It's because you have already cultivated that habit of reading, of scaling yourself. Okay, so then it boosts what productivity with faster and user recovery. So when your user need to reset their password, they don't need to start raising a ticket. say password reset, before the help desk will contact them, before they do that, and they need to do something quickly. All they just need to do is just go there, man, reset your password. It's just like your Gmail password. Do you need to send email to anybody to reset your Gmail password? All you just need to do is to click on forget password, and you follow the prompt there, and then you reset your password. So this is known as what? As the SSRPR. Okay, so now this scenario support will change password, reset password, and unlock password, which I said. Now, I said supported authentication method for SSPR include mobile app notification, mobile app code, emails, phone number, office phone, security question. I can remember one of these I have like presently now in my office. So I used to work with a company in an IT firm. So we manage we support some company, but they did redundancy and they needed to said, okay, we don't want this company again, XYZ. And because of, due to the UK law and everything, that those people that are working there, some people got redundancy, they did the whole check and everything like that. So now they now move us, we that are now qualified, they now move us to that particular company. So they no longer have third party. So that company now have their own IT firm. So they now move us as part of their IT firm of that company. So there is a particular company in that company that we support. So I needed to now log in to that portal to do one or two things. But I now noticed that I cannot remember my password. And then I click on forget password. The SSPR has been configured already. I click on forget password, and then now it's now asking me for the phone number, the mobile number, and the mobile number I used on that account was my work number with the previous company. So I needed to now send it to admin and ask the tenant, you need to reset my MFA for me so that I can now use my new number and I can reset my password when I need to do. Okay, so that is the future of this the SSRPR. So it said then we now have the key feature. We have the password write back. It said update made via SSPR sync instantly to on-prem Active Directly, enabling seamless access to local resources. So which means that this simply means that if you have a user, like we talk about the hybrid identity, if we have a user that is coming from the on-prem, now remember that this user account was created on-prem, which is the Azure, the Active Directory. Okay, now if this user now want to now reset their password, they don't need to go to on-prem to reset their password, because now they are now syncing to cloud. Okay, they're now syncing to cloud. But before you can do that now, or if they change their password on-prem, for them to now be able to use the password in the cloud environment, and maybe when they want to reset their password, this feature, which is known as the password write back, need to be enabled. That need to be configured also. So which means that the password they change in the cloud environment will be right backward to the cloud. It will be right back to the on-prem, because that is where their account is originally. Okay, so that is that. So these are a lot of things that has to do with a lot of setup and configuration. Okay, and then we have the email notification. Now this email notification, I say admin can enable alert for SSPR event for admin account on global admin and notify when a privileged password is reset, adding an extra layer of security awareness. So that simply means that if I can decide to enable this email notification, so which means that if a user reset their password, the admin will get a notification that user has reset their password. The reason being is just for the purpose of extra security, but it is not needed if you don't. As long as your environment is being configured properly, you don't need to do that, because as an admin, you don't need to go and start looking at all those things. It will take you a lot of time. The logs is there already to show for that. So, but some can decide to say, okay, I want to enable this email notification, which means that an admin will get an email notification when a user will reset their password, so that if maybe maybe if a user reset password, we can contact that user. Did you reset the password? And user said, no, I did not reset my password. What happened? So we can know that there is a breach somewhere. Okay. So, but mostly it's not needed once your environment is set up properly. So I think our time is going because I need to just do 1 or 2 demo. So this is 5:35. Okay, so I think we should be rounding up very soon, and then so I can just show you 1 or 2 things on the portal. So then the next thing we have the password protection and management capability. Password protection and management capability. It's a password protection in Microsoft Entra ID. This helps prevent weak password by detecting and blocking common and organization-specific terms, reducing the risk of compromise. Like I said before when I was talking, I said a user was setting a password and she was using what? The company name. So this password protection is what an admin can now configure to now make sure such thing does not happen. Okay. Now we now have what we have global banned password list. It's automatically update by Microsoft using real-world attack data and algorithm that detect weak password and their variation enforced across all users and cannot be disabled. Example of the password might be blocked is this one. Can you see that? So this is known as a global. If you want to try it now, we are creating a user. If you are setting a password, you want to set a password, maybe you don't want it to generate password for you. If you put this password, this will not be accepted because it is known as what? As a global banned password list. And this is done by Microsoft. It is updated by Microsoft. You cannot do anything about that. But for the on-prem, when you are doing like maybe they are just trying to do tests, this one, you can do that. You can maybe just start, but it is not advisable. This is a disclaimer. It is not advisable in the production environment for you to use this as a password because you say, oh, it's on-prem. Any on-prem you see will definitely be sync word to the cloud. So don't go and use this password for user you are opening account for. On-prem environment. Okay, so it's not advisable. So this is known as the global banned password list in the Microsoft Entra ID. Then the next one, we have the custom banned password list. It says admin can block organizational specific terms like branded names, location, and internal abbreviation combined with the global list for stronger protection. So this simply means that just like from this diagram you can see from here, this diagram here, you can see now this is a custom banned password list. So as an admin, you can simply go there and add. So here you can now add the name of that company, the name of your company. So which means that anybody that wants to create a password and now use the company names or anything that has to do with that, it will definitely will be blocked. So this will not be combination of the word of the global list. So this now makes it to be stronger. This gives your password word a stronger view. So to do that, you need the Microsoft Entra ID Premium license, okay, to configure that. Then we now have the password spray defense. It said this block commonly used weak password targeted in a spray attack using telemetry driven insight. And then we have the hybrid security. For hybrid security, admin can integrate Microsoft Entra password protection within an on-prem Active Directory environment. So the same thing applies to hybrid environment too. We can also configure such kind of thing. So it depends on the administrator, okay, or depending on the company policy. Okay, some companies don't do that because they feel it's not needed. So since the user are going to be synced to the cloud environment, okay. And then I think we are going lastly, I think it should be my last slide. So this is the identity infrastructure pillar. Now, this is what Emmanuel talked about yesterday. I just put this as the last slide so that you can understand, because I'm going to show you how to enable the audit in your Microsoft Entra ID environment. Now, the identity infrastructure pillars, which we talked about yesterday. We said we have the administration, we have the authentication, and we have the word authorization, and we have the word auditing. Okay, now administration focuses on managing identity cycles to ensure proper user provisioning and deprovisioning. So the administration part, which simply means that when a user has left an organization, we know that the next thing is to disable the account, block every access they have, because they are no longer working with us. That is what the administration word management. And then the user authentication, say authentication verify user credentials to confirm the identity of users accessing what systems. So the way we are here now, if an account, if let's say for example, this is an organization, and we now said that nobody should go and do XYZ in the tenant. Nobody should do XYZ. Or let's say among the admin, they say the only person that is authorized, like in my company, there's access, everybody we have an access, is called Okta. I don't know about most of you know. Some people will know what they call Okta. So Okta is just like similar to is a MFA authentication stuff. So access to Okta, everybody in the team, we all have access to Okta, okay? But we don't have what we can do, because all of us did the exam and we passed. So they gave all of us equal access. But now it has now been distributed, saying that XYZ, you, the only thing you have is to reset MFA. You, the only thing you have is to reset password. But if you now feel that you think that you're smart, and then you now go and reset password, and the only access you have is to reset MFA, then you'll be in trouble. How are they going to get you? With what? Your user identification. So the audit log will tell us that you are the one that reset password, whereas the access they say you should have is what? Is just to reset MFA. So that's why even in company organization, integrity matters a lot. Some companies do that to just test people. Those are small things they just use to chase people out of the company. Once you just go and do plan, they will not even want to hear that this is mistake, because these are sensitive things. Because this means that there's no longer trust again. They've told you that the only access you have is to reset password, and now you are now going to reset MFA. So it's very, very important. So the user authentication enables us to do that, to see what is happening. Then we now have the access authorization. Like I said, you don't have the authorization to do that. You only have access. Okay? You don't have the authorization to do that. Now, if all of us go to the airport, we'll go to the airport. That does not mean that we'll enter the plane, because you don't have access to what? The plane that is going to London. The only plane you have is what? Going to the US or whatsoever country. Okay? And then we now have the activity auditing. It's an auditing track user and system activities to provide security and compliance monitoring. So that's why you see that auditing is very, 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 very important in an organization. So when they say don't do this, don't do that, they say don't use it. So people say, and maybe they are now just doing auditing. Maybe one day they are just trying to do something, or maybe they are trying to reshuffle people in the organization, and then I say, okay, let's see, let's go through the audit log and let's see, so person that did XYZ that was not meant to do it. They will see it there from the audit. And then you will now be saying that, okay, so I think something happened in my company, was last week or thereabout. Somebody, a user sent a ticket, and she said, and she sent the ticket with a screenshot. And from that screenshot, what I could see there was that this particular user laptop was erased by someone. So when I asked, I said, what happened? Did you, because it's a Mac system, it's a MacBook. So I now asked, I said, did you wipe this machine? Because even she's going to wipe the machine, she will not even have access to wipe that machine, because when she wants to wipe that machine, a recovery key will be needed. So users don't have access to that. It's we that have access to that recovery key. And I said, did you wipe the machine? He said no. But some user can decide to just go, and then maybe, some user can be tricky. And she said no, she didn't actually do anything. And I said, okay, just hold on. And then we went to the back end with my colleague. And at the back end, then we now saw that somebody actually, which is not in our team, actually wiped that user machine. So what can we do? We do not want to expose the person. All I just went back to tell user, I said, oh, sorry, this might be like a hardware issue, because at times you have to learn how to, because it's not somebody from our team anyway, because it's something, because most of the users, we usually tell them that make sure you back up your files to OneDrive, because they have access to OneDrive. So if anything happens to your system, they have all their data in the OneDrive. The only thing they need to do is to log in, and then we can install their apps they need and all those things like that. So that's why I have to tell you that. I said, okay, maybe probably I think this is a machine problem. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to wipe your machine again, and then reprovision your machine back for you, and then log in, as long as you have all your data back up in the OneDrive. But I was able to manage that situation, because if I should tell that user that somebody who's not in the team actually wiped our machine, then that will be trouble, and definitely they will fish that person out and then speak to the manager, and the person can be sacked. Okay, so that is what the audit logs does. Okay, so if you have access to audit log, you can see everything that is going on in that particular tenant. Okay, and I think this is where we are rounding up. So summary and key takeaway from what we have discussed so far. We've talked about we've seen the comprehensive IAM solution, which is the Microsoft Entra ID supports identity management across hybrid, cloud, and external environment for versatile use. And then we talk about the advanced authentication, which offers sophisticated authentication method to improve security and protect organizational security. And then we talk about the enhanced security feature, and then support for collaboration. So sorry, before we go to our question and answer, our question and the question, because of time, I will just quickly want to show you something in the portal, and then we can now come back to our question and then our answers. Then we can come back to question, we can ask questions, so that we don't delay people here. Okay, so I hope that is fine by you guys. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. So thank you very much. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now while I bring up my other environment. I'm just going to stop sharing this. So give me 1 second, and then 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. So now I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, am I stopped? Okay, I think I've stopped sharing. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen back. Yes, I hope you should be able to see my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. So now what I just want to show you, just the lab we just want to do quickly is just to show you how to enable, I think somebody is, can you please mute your mic? Thank you. So how to enable the Microsoft 365 audit log. Okay, so when you have your tenant, the first thing you need to do is to make sure that your audit log is now being enabled, because once you start provisioning users and you start setting up things, so this log are the ones that now will take logs of activities of whatever you are doing. So if you don't enable that, you might not be able to, it might be very difficult for you to get one or two things. Maybe like you want to see, maybe like somebody deleted the user and you want to know who deleted that user. So through the logs, we can go there and check it. But once the audit log is not being enabled, if that happens, it might be very difficult to detect. Okay. So now this is my Microsoft admin environment, and which we all know to log into. When you open your portal, you just go to your admin.cloud.microsoft.com, or you can do admin.microsoft. Okay, so it will take you to that environment. So this is the new URL, but I think most people have not started using it. But you can use the admin.cloud.microsoft, or you use admin.microsoft, any of the two. So you click on enter, and that takes you to this particular environment. The reason why it's taking me, because I've signed in already. But normally, if you are just signing for the first time, you need to put in your password, and then you put in your email and your password. So if you are a global admin, you put in your global password, you put in your global you put in your your email, and then that particular password you have. But if you're not a global administrator, you might not be able to do this one. Okay, so when you now do that, you now come up here. Now this is the house, like we talked about the tenant. I'll show you now. You come here, click on this show all, and then you now come to this place and click on your security. Click on security. Now, when you click on your security here, now this now takes you to this particular portal here. This takes you to another portal. This is another environment. This is another portal within our M365 environment. Okay, so this is separate or so. Now, this is your security portal, which we are going to be doing a lot as time goes on. Okay, so please, you don't need to rush. Just take your time. Just make sure you join the class, take note, and then you be there. Okay, so then when you now do that, you now come down here and click on system. Can you see system? This is system here. Can you see that? And you now click on audit. Click on this audit. Now, when you click on your audit here, now when you do that, when you click on that audit, if that is the first time you are enabling audit on that tenant, you will see a blue up here. Let me bring out this. I have a tenant I've opened down. This tenant here. I hope you can see this other tenant. Now, if you look at this tenant, this is another tenant. This tenant have not enabled the audit. So if you look at now, can you see that blue? Can you see start recording user and admin activity? Can you see that?
Yes.
I hope you can see my screen. So you can see, so that you now need to click on that. I'm not going to click on that because this tenant is for different things, so I don't want to do that now. So now you now click on that just the same way I did on the other tenant. You went to my admin, you click on security, it brings you here. You come up here, click on your system. When you click on system, you come up here, click on audit. Once you click on audit, then you now see start recording what user and admin activity. Okay, so that is how you enable your audit environment. So when you now need to check one or two things, then you now go there, you now come up here, you now search whatever you need to check, or there are different audits in different application environment. Okay, in this your M365 environment. So I'm just going to close that. So that is how to enable your audit in your Microsoft Entra ID. And then the next one we're going to be doing is the I want to show you on how to create an identity. And how to create an identity. Like I said, this class, you're still going to do more of all those stuff, but I'm just trying to show you one or two things so that you can understand. By the time you get to that place, you know that, oh yeah, this thing, just like yesterday, what Emmanuel talks, you can see we talked about audit, and here again, we still talk about it. So just for you to have an understanding of it, even with all this one self, by the time you finish, you can even go and write your SC900 and you pass it. So now you come here, you come to this your admin environment, then you now click on your identity. Click on identity. you can see here now, you can see the word identity. You can see what we just spoke about. Out of all this environment, this is what I've just spoken about here. We'll be talking about since morning. You see here, identity. So you click on that, then this now take you to another environment. If you look at it here now, look at the URL. What can you see there? Can you see entra.what.microsoft.com? That is what we just talked about. Entra.microsoft.com. So this is your Entra environment, okay? So, but you have to come up here and then click on your identity, and then it will take you there. Or you can enter, you can just go to the URL, type it there, and you know it, enter your credentials, and it will take you there. So now when you come to this your identity here now from this particular place here, you can see this landing page here you are seeing now. You can see this name here. You can see this is Yemtech IT. You can see you have this is the tenant name, Yemtech IT. You can see this is the tenant ID we talked about. Can you see that now? This is the primary word domain. You can see this is the license showing me what I have, what the Microsoft Entra ID P2. Okay, this is my Microsoft tenant environment I use for testing things. Okay, so this is a tenant environment. Okay, so this is your tenant environment. You can see now, you can see this is your tenant ID we talked about and all those things. Now I want to provision user in this Entra environment. What I need to do, I'll go to my Entra ID and click on users. When you come to your Entra ID, when you click on users, then you come up here. You can see here you have new users. Click on that arrow. You now have create users and you have invite external users. But look at what you say. You know why I like Microsoft product is that they will tell you underneath what you are doing. They will tell you, they'll briefly describe what you are trying to do. That is why I love Microsoft product a lot. So if you look at this place now, you have create a new internal user in your organization. We talk about internal and external user, isn't it? So look at it now. I said invite an external user to collaborate with your organization. That is what invite user. Like I said, you are working in mobile and you have a client that is working at that company that want to access your SharePoint environment. But now the company policy says that anybody with any link cannot have access to anything. So it's either you now invite that user to that tenant with their own credentials, with their own ID. You understand? Whatever email they have. So they need to now accept it. Once they accept it, then they come here. Once they come here, that user will now be what? A guest user. Then we talk about the user type. We have the guest user and what? And members. So if I come up here now, click on this create user, you know, Emmanuel showed us yesterday. You can see. So if you come up here, let's say I want to create a user. I said, let me just create a user. Let me say Friday. Come up here. And then this is the domain name. It carry that domain name. I want it to carry that. Here, display name, I can say Friday. And whatever, there's something we call naming convention, which is very, very important in every organization. So if your duty is to provision identity for users, then you have to follow the company naming convention in creating users. This is very, very important in every organization. Okay, so you need to take note of that. So here I'll click on that. Then here the password, it will generate password for me. I can say auto generate. If I don't want, I can come up here, click my password. If I want it to auto generate, I'll tick that. So it will auto generate a password for me. And then here you can see you have account enable. You can see it is tick. If I untick this, by the time I create this user and I send it to Friday, Friday will not be able to log in. The reason being is because of the account is not enabled. I created the account, good and fine, but now I didn't enable the account. So if you click on this question here, if you click on this top here, you can see it will tell you, if not checked, this user will be blocked from signing in. You can see that now. That is all. So you must make sure that this is being checked. You come up here, you click on your next property, then come up here, you now give it, you now put in, let's say Friday, its name is Friday, Friday, Sunday, surname is Sunday, just give it like that. Then look at it now, user type, member. You can see we have guest. You can see that now, but it's a member. We are creating that is a member. You understand? So you now come up here, you fill in the job title, fill in the company, fill in the ID, and all those things like that. So once you now fill in that, you now come up here. Now, there's something I want you to note when you are provisioning a user. Look at this thing. I have users what location. Now, this user location is very, very important. Okay, it's very, very important when you come to like others, but let's just leave that for now because of time. So, but it's very, very important. So here I'll just come up here, put my user location as my, I can put United Kingdom, and then click on your next. When you now click on your next here, if you want to assign them to a group, or you want to assign them to a group that has a role for them to access to want to use one or two things, you do that. If you don't have, you just click on next, and you say, so click on next, and then here it will now give you the summary of what you have created. You can see that. Then you now come up here and now say create. Now I've created that user. This user is what? What's the name of that user? I'll come up here. I will search for that user, Friday, right? Friday. This is the user I've created. Look at it now. User type is what? Is member. Can you see that now? Is this user from on-prem? No. You can see that it's telling me that is what? Is no. You can see that identity of that user. You can see that now, company name and everything. If you click on it, it will show you more things you need to do. You can go to the edit property. You want to reset password of the user, you can do that. You want to revoke session of that user, you can do that. So you can see that account status is what is enabled. If in your company it's okay, we need you to go and disable Friday so that he cannot log into his account. All you have to do is to come up here and untick it. You don't go and delete his account because it didn't say delete. Some people don't usually differentiate between disable. So if you are disabled, okay, Papa, you just go, you delete account. That's another high level of offense. So you have to now come up here, edit here, and then you can now uncheck this and you click on save. That user account has been disabled. The user cannot log in that credentials. Okay. If you say enable the account, you go back there and then you enable it. And then doing that, you can disable. You don't need to even reset the password. But if you, for other things, you can reset the password. Maybe they are doing investigation. After the investigation, you can now, they can say, okay, you can enable the account of the user back, and then you can now enable it. The user can now log in. You can now change their password for them, and then they can log into that. Okay, so now when you create this user, you can see here now there's an object ID for that user. Can you see that? So there's difference between what object ID and what and tenant ID. Okay, user type is member. Now if I go back here now, let me go back to this, go back here. Now if I go back to my users, now if you look at this place, I want to filter this. I'll click on add filter here, and I'll come up here. What do I want to filter? I want to filter by user type. Let me go to go down. Yeah, user type filter. Now I want to look for a guest user. Do I have a guest user in this place? I'll come up here. I'll click on this equal to value. I'll say guest. I'll say apply. You can see that now I have one guest user. You can see that now on this tenant. I have what? One guest user. Now, how did this user get to my tenant? Because an invitation was sent to that user. By the time you click on this now, you will see that this particular user here, you have this thing X, this hash X, which means that it's an external user, that an invitation was sent and they accept that invitation. So that user cannot have access to what resources in my organization. Give them access to what they need to get access to. So these users are known as the B2 invitation, which is what business to business invitation user. Okay. So that is for that. Okay. Think our time. Do I see Nonso? Do I still have time like to just have,
I think we are running out of time. It's way off the time.
Yeah.
Unless you can take 5 more minutes so we can run.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. So so one last thing I just need to do, I just only want to show you guys, is the self-service password reset. Okay, self-service password reset. But before I do that, now this user you set up, this user we set up in this Entra ID. Remember that this user does not have license, so I cannot give license to that user in this Entra ID. I have to go back to my admin and then come up here, users, active users. Now search for that user I created, which is Friday. Okay, enter. I'll come up here, click on that. How do I know it doesn't have a license? If you come up here, you can see a unlicensed user. You can see. So which means that even if they log in, they can't have access to any resources. They can't have access to any product, any app to use. So I have to come up here, click on license, and then I'll now give this user the license. I'll give user any license I want to give them. I'll now click on save changes, and then that license has been changed. Okay, so I've given that user that license. So quickly, the self-service password reset. Now, self-service password reset is like, let's say this user Friday now, the user login and I need them to change in their password. Maybe like if they want to change password, anytime they want to change their password. So I need to configure that SSR. Okay. So how do you quickly configure that? Just briefly. Okay. Now, like I said, these are courses that you still come in contact. So even if you don't understand now, you will still come in contact with it in subsequent lecture. So you can relate with that. So all you just need to do, you come to this your Entra ID environment. You go to your Entra ID, and then you click on you come up and click on your Entra ID environment. When you go to Entra, you come up and click on your Entra ID, and then you come down here. I think somebody's mic is unmuted. Can you please mute your mic? Thank you. Hello, can somebody mute that? I think it's. So you now come up here and then you click on it. Can you see that you have the password reset? Password reset. Click on that. When you click on that, your password reset, you will now configure it. Now, how do I configure it now? It says self-service password reset enable selected none. Can you see that now? None. So which means that none, or you can say all. But I want to now configure this self-service password reset for just selected users, not all the users in my organizations. Okay, so those users you want to select, to make sure that users are in a particular group. Like I said, these are things you're going to be taught. So in a particular group. So once that users are in a particular group, all you just need to do is to make sure you come up here, you make sure this is being selected, or if it's all user, click on that, and you click on save. If I click on save now, this will be set up for all my users in my organization. But if I want to do selected users, I can come up here, okay, and then click on this one, search for the group you want to use. I already have a group. I can come up here, type that group. I have a group I want to use, which is this IT engineers. It's there. Select it, you save it, and then you close it. Once you do that, what you need to do, you now go back again. You now come to your authentication method. Sorry. Let me select save. Let me click on save. So you come to your authentication method. Now, this is the authentication we talked about. Now, numbers of method required to reset this password. So when they want, let's say Friday, I create the user has just created an account now. Let's say maybe they log in with normal password they got, and for one reason or the other, they forgot their password, they need to reset. So here I'll come up here and say, okay, if you want to reset your password as a user, you need to provide mobile number and security questions, depending on what you want to set. And depending on the company policy. So if company policy says that we don't want phone numbers, we don't want emails, it's just what our mobile phone and just security questions. So you come up here and say, okay, numbers of security questions user need to register. I mean that is required for the user to register. I can say 3 or 4. 4 is too much, so you can say 3. It says number of questions required to reset password. I can say 3. Then come up here and choose your security questions. I can come up here and click on that. So, okay, you need to tell me what is your city. In what city did you meet your first spouse? You need to give me that answer. Then you can come up here and say, okay, I want to do so again. What is the favorite food? What is your favorite food? Those 2 questions. I'll now click on my OK. So once I click on OK, now those security questions have become. So by Microsoft standard, they said this particular method, you must select 2 at least. Not, you can see the method there. I selected what? Mobile phone and what? security questions, and then I set up my security question. So you cannot just come and select only phone number, but you can do that if you want to, depending on the company word policy. So we're going to be talking about policy and compliance. Okay, so depending on that, okay, so you choose that and then you save that. Then you come up here, you just save it. You can come up to your registration to configure that. Say users require users to register when signing. Yes. The numbers of days before users are asked to reconfirm their authentication information, 180 days, which is about like 6 months or thereabout. So they, like I said, depend on your company policy. So this can be changed. Okay, you can say 3 months. Now you think that every 3 months they need to confirm for us to know that okay, this is still our users. Okay, so once you do that, you just see that this is the notification area. You come up here, you can configure and say, okay, notify users on password reset. Yes. If you say no, they will not get notification. So notify all admin when other admin reset password. That one you just leave it on no, or you can put it on yes if you want to. So what we have simply done now, we have configured what our SSPR. We have what? We have configured that. So whenever that user want to now log in, I could have done that now because of our time. Whenever they want to log in, they need to now register. You know this one you did now, available method available to users. Numbers of method required to reset. So they need to provide this information. So this is how you can set up your SSP. Like I said, these are things that we are still going to be doing when we come next time. We'll still come and then we can do more lab on that, and then you see how it works. Okay, so that's for that. And then the last one, which is the audit. Now this is your audit log here. Now come up here, this is your audit log. If I click on this audit log now, look at what's today's date. Today's date is 19. If you look at it here, 19 self-service password reset. I configure self-service password reset. Can you see that now? You can see it's telling me that successful. You see that it's telling me that I've configured what somebody configured that. If you click on it, it will tell you everything to bring out the whole details. But if you did not configure if you don't enable your audit log, you can't get all these logs. Okay, so if a user now change their password with the self-service password reset, when you come up here the audit log, you see that Friday reset word is password using what the self-service password reset. Okay, so that is all for that. Thank you very much. I do hope you have gained one or two things from today's class. So any question? So thank you, Nonso, for giving me that few time. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Opeyemi, for that brilliant section. I think we can all agree that it was informative and insightful. I could feel your passion for mentoring, and I enjoyed the real life examples you gave. I hope we now have an understanding of the capabilities of Microsoft Entra ID. These are still the fundamentals. At this stage, we just need you to understand and get used to the concepts and jargons. As we progress in the bootcamp, you will see how these concepts are all put together and configured to provide security for users, devices, applications across the organization. If you have any question, please pop them in the chat or use the raise hand emoji while I go through the chat for any unanswered question. Many thanks to all the mentors that have responded swiftly to the questions in the chat.
Nonso, are you there?
Yeah, 1 minute. I was trying to share my slide. Okay. I think we have 6 people that have questions. James, you can go ahead with your question, please. James, are you there? You raised your hand. please ask your question. If James is not ready, Idris, you can unmute now.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Okpe. We really enjoy your session. So my question is that I wanted to ask, as part of a like Google Authenticator, can we use it as second level authenticator when you are trying to sign in? Because I try to configure it for one of my users and I keep getting some error. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, so if I may ask, which environment were you trying to do that? Is it in your Microsoft Entra ID, or you're doing that in the admin environment?
Microsoft Entra ID.
So in the Microsoft Entra ID, so when you want to configure a user for MFA, there are two ways you can do, which maybe you can use the conditional access policy, which is what we're going to be doing in this course, how to configure your conditional access policy. So where you enable MFA for all your users in your organization. So once you just enable that MFA, those users, whenever the user wants to now log in, they now need to now follow the prompt on their screen. Then it will tell them to download the Authenticator app. They'll download the Authenticator app on their phone, either from the iPhone or from the Android phone. Once they download it, then there will now be a QR code they need to scan. So once they scan that particular QR code, automatically it will pop out, it's a provision on that app. So whenever they now need to log in to their account and they put in their password, they put their email and their password, the authenticator will definitely be working. Just like this particular user I provision on this environment now. If I try to log into that user with the password and email, because my tenant, I've already configured conditional access for, I've enabled MFA for my users. So it will prompt that user for MFA to be able to log in. So you have to know that did you use the conditional access to provision that users, or you use the security, which is the per MFA configuration. So it does not depend on it. I think for basic, I think for charity, tenant, there's no, you can't do conditional access policy. So you have to use the per MFA configuration. So you have to enable the MFA stop. So I don't know. So it depends on what you did, actually.
All right. Thank you, boss. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, James, are you here now? Okay, I think he put down his hand. Yeah, Bubakar, please go ahead. Abubakar, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead, please.
Okay, good evening, sirs. Good evening, Mr. Opeyemi and the rest.
Yeah, good evening.
I am Yahya Abubakar. My question is just that, I'm new into Microsoft. I am schooled. While I want to ask from the last section, the lab that you did, just to sign into the Microsoft Admin Center, and you start to go and play around all these applications, or you need to buy a license or a subscription. I need to say, how do I go about that for me to have that access and be practicing all those labs? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that question. So I think Emmanuel will be in the best answer to best you to answer that question. So, but like before when Microsoft started, there's something we call developer tenant. So which means you can have a developer tenant to test all this Microsoft stuff. So they will give you a license, and I think after every 3 months they renew it for you. But now I think they've stopped it. But so I've not really I have not really checked if there's any other means you can have a free account to be able to use to test develop. Mine is the developer tenant, which I subscribed to when they started, and I've been making use of it. And I could remember then they blocked some accounts. People that are not using their own, they just set it up, so they block it up. So I don't know, maybe in if Emmanuel, I don't know, are you here? If you can able to pour more light on that, please, or not? So if you can able to do that for us.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Opeyemi. Maybe I'll try get across to Mr. Emmanuel.
Yep, you're
Sorry
welcome.
about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, who's next? Any question?
Yes, my own is just a suggestion. I don't know. Is it the right time for me to speak?
What's your name? Who's speaking?
Okay, my name is
Patrick.
Patrick.
Just
and
hold on, please.
okay.
Hold on,
Okay,
Patrick. Yeah,
All right.
I'm following the queue. Sorry, I didn't know my mic was mute. I wanted to add to what you said. We are still at the fundamentals. At this stage, we just want you to get used to the concepts and understand the capabilities. As we progress to the lab and apply skills, we will see how we can get test tenants where you can use to practice. You will also see a walkthrough on how these things are done. So let's take it one at a time. What we need you to do now is to have an understanding of these concepts, the keywords, get used to them. As we progress, we will sort that out, okay? The next is Olalade Fatai. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that. Okay, his hand is down. We have Owolabi. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you so much for the session. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I came across this thing during MFA research. I understand that, I mean, in this particular tenant, I cannot reset MFA for high risk users like all these managers and top guys in the organization. So I don't know how or what how that is done, how that is configured. Just looking at if you can shed more light on that. Thank you so much for the session. It was insightful.
All right, thank you. I think we can take this offline. Let's focus on the section for today so we don't really take much of our time, okay? If you post that on the group, yeah, I think the mentors will be able to support you, okay? So please, if you have questions on the section today, that would be very helpful.
Sorry, no, so sorry for that. I thought it's got short. If I may get, I think what he's trying to say, are you trying to say that you want to bypass MFA for executive in your organizations, or you are trying to ask, is it advisable to set up MFA for executives in your organization? Is that what you're saying? If I may get that. Okay, let's continue. As I think it's.
I think we can take it offline. Yeah, there's a reason I'm trying to manage the time, and we have 7 people that are still raising their hands. Patrick, please go ahead.
All right. All right. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yep.
All right. Not really like a question. I want to appreciate the presenter. He really did. Opeyemi, he really did a wonderful job here. I really appreciate. It's really wonderful. And again, what I want to say is it's a suggestion anyway. Yes. Concerning the recording, I would suggest immediately the section finishes, we can pause recording while we now continue with our normal questions, which can take extra time. We can. I think that wouldn't have to add much time to the normal 2 hours, which has been already scheduled for the class or the section. So that's my suggestion anyway. So I don't know if you consider that you can just make it 2 hours. Immediately the session finishes, then we pause it. Then we now have our normal questions and all that. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. I think Owolabi, do you want to clarify the question or?
So okay, so the question is, I'm not trying to bypass MFA for the executives. Apparently they actually need the MFA, but some help desk engineers, they cannot do MFA reset like from the back end. They have access to the Office 365 at the back end to actually do MFA reset for users, but they have these restrictions. They cannot do MFA reset for executives. So that's my question.
Yes, that's true because I think in my organization we have we have a separate IT team for the we call them VIPs, okay? So those are the executives. So we have separate team that are dealing with them. So other just other engineers or other IT admin do not have access to those executives. So they have separate people that they manage them. So help desks might not be able to support them. So it depending on the company setup, and if they have resources for that, so they will have they need to contact maybe like the IT that are managing the VIPs. Those are the ones that are able to have access. So for the fact that you're an admin, so they will not give you access to that. They will only give you access to what you need to have access to. Just that's why we talked about access, user identity. So you just give access to what you have access to and what you can do. Anything that has to do with the executive, you will not have access to that because there are different teams that manage that. So it's possible. Yeah.
So, Owolabi, I hope that clarifies what you need. I think we might require more information to
Yes,
be able to understand
thank
the
you.
situation, yeah, and be able to, which is why I wanted us to take it offline. Anyway, I
Okay.
think Isaac, please go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate this, and I want to commend you guys for what you are doing. You guys are doing a very good job. So thank you very much, and do keep it up. So my question is, if you have a tenant that is created in Azure environment, does it automatically have access to M365 admin? Let's assume you are a global admin in Azure environment. Do you get access to the M365 admin portal automatically? I don't know if my question make any sense. Hello?
Sorry, hello. Yeah, sorry. Can you rephrase that question again? Sorry, I was doing something. Sorry.
Okay, my question is, if you have a tenant created in Azure portal, right, as a global admin, for example, do you automatically have access to the M365 admin portal?
No, you don't. So because that Azure, when you set up an Azure account, so it's a different thing entirely. So it depends on how it's being set up. So that does not give you access to the M365 environment automatically. But however, you can have access to the Entra ID environment, which is a different entity. So it depends on how that tenant is being provisioned. Okay, so just like this, my tenant here now, if I want to have Azure to it, I need to. I have to do my subscription. I have to do the subscription. So I have to pay for that subscription to be able to have Azure. So that will carry that same identity of my tenant. You get, so I have to have my Azure subscription, which is I have after I can be able to spin virtual machine and do every other thing. So for the fact that you have Azure does not mean that you have access to the M365 environment automatically. So there's different thing entirely.
Okay. What if I want to assign license to a user in Azure?
Now you don't you assign license to user a Microsoft and a Microsoft admin environment and
Admin
not
environment,
Azure.
yes.
Yeah, so you have to admin environment separately and not Azure. So if you need to do that, like I say, it depends on what you actually did. So it depends on your tenant, how the tenant was created for you and how you create the tenant. So if
The
you want to
tenant
have
was
access
created
to
in Azure.
the tenant was created in Azure. No, you can't. You
Yes.
you have to get a separate subscription. Maybe like your you have like different like E5 license for that and all those things like that. So depending on the amount of users you want to have license for and all those things. So it's a separate thing entirely, completely. So for the fact that your users because for you to have your users in your Azure environment, those users were created in your Entra ID.
Entra ID, yes.
Yeah.
So how do I
So
assign like a P2 license to users?
that's you need subscription, but you can't assign the license to those users from Azure. So you have to make sure you have to get a separate subscription, maybe like E5 subscription for Microsoft 365. If you create a user in Entra ID, you can't assign license to those users in that environment, because the only place you can assign license to user is the admin, the Microsoft 365 admin
M365.
environment. Yeah. So it's like it's a
Okay,
different
thank you very
subscription. You
much.
have to do it's a different subscription entirely. So you have to buy the Microsoft 365 license, which are saying like business premium, E5 or E3. So and then you can now assign license to those users.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Patrick, please go ahead. If you've asked your question, put down your hands, please, just to help us know how many people are remaining. Patrick, if you still have a question, please go ahead. Okay, I think the next is Osagie Brown. Please go ahead.
Hello, can
Go
you hear
ahead,
me?
please. Yep, you can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Opeyemi. It's not really a question. Just want to confirm if the slides can be is going to be shared, to the on in the chat if we're going to get access to the slide.